What's up? My name's Glueboy. Welcome back to the channel. Today we got a interesting one, not gonna lie. This is technically a character video, but I don't know if I'd call this a character, as we're gonna go into the Tyranid hive mind and exactly what is it. So first things first, the concept of a hive mind in general. As a massive fan of sci-fi, I see hive mind stuff constantly. And there are a few types I think you can categorize a lot of hive minds into. Three of them being essentially a species that is all just telepathically connected, where everyone is aware of the same things and they're all very sentient, just connected in some psychic or even technological way. Another one is kind of more bug hive kind of like literally the hive in hive mind, where you have almost like a queen figure or queens that puppet drones. Kind of bug-like. There's a lot of these. I'll get into some examples later. And then there's just a giant brain where every single piece acts almost like a neuron of one giant mind. A mind made of millions of tiny brains. And of those, some examples of other hive minds, you got the Borg from Star Trek, the bugs from Starship Troopers, or the Flood from Halo. And a lot of these, especially later for Star Trek, kind of go more into the hive with a queen face to it. The Borg Queen, the Brain Bug or Queen Bug from Starship Troopers, or the Grave Mind from Halo. A lot of those is because I think a lot of sci-fi writers want to have a face to their swarm, as you have a personality you can attach to. And anyone who says they don't love Grave Mind is lying to you. But the Tyranids land kind of in the giant brain category, which I personally love. I like the idea of an unthinking swarm. It's a bit more complicated than that. As well, the Tyranids are a Gestalt consciousness. And just to make sure everyone's on the same page for that, a Gestalt consciousness, when it comes to hive minds like this, is essentially the more brains in the same area, the stronger the hive mind is. It can think faster, be more tactical, make better decisions. The fewer bugs there are, the bit dumber, a bit more basic it's going to be. Because the hive mind, when really strong, is scary intelligent. You don't want to underestimate the Tyranids. But when you're fighting an individual, small group of bugs, they're as dangerous as any dangerous wild animal would be. A wolf's coming at you. Same deal. Still gonna fuck you up, but not as much as a full tactical squad of them. But yeah, the Tyranid hive mind itself, going into that, it's kind of interesting. There's not a lot known about where the Tyranids came from or what the hive mind really is. As on one hand, it could just be a giant, Gestalt consciousness, one huge brain thing, where the only way to get rid of it is to kill every single individual Tyranid. Or it could just be some super powerful psychic being out in the middle of deep space, a full-on God Emperor of bug kind or something. I certainly hope it's not that, as I like the Tyranids because they're this giant collective consciousness thing. But the Tyranid hive mind is absolutely terrifying. And one of the reasons is because, it's a smart thing, as there's some real tactics shown by the Tyranids in many of their engagements. In one of the earlier Tyrannic Wars, I think the first one was when this one was, where they kind of first emerged and really fucked up the Ultramarines and really crippled Marnius Gallagher, the chapter master, as they did some clever plays. The Swarm Lord, the giant bug who was kind of leading the charge there, made some really smart decisions, and as well, full on got a cheeky flank in and crippled a part of their forces because a bunch of little bugs played dead and waited for them to turn their backs and then charged. Yo, editing Glueboy here. Got a quick correction about that one. So the Swarm Lord isn't fully connected to the hive mind as a lot of the other Nids are, your typical hive tyrant and all that. It's actually its own separate thing with its own memories and independence, as it is a thing the hive mind throws out when it can't, crack some really difficult nut that is the Imperium and all that. So while it's not technically an example of the hive mind, I still think it's a important point that it's real smart. It created something that kind of is smarter than it and can solve problems it can't even handle. Anyways, peace, back to the actual thing. Or another one, I think Devastation of Ball for this time, The Tyranids use their corpses to block up moats of like this, water that would just straight up kill you, to be able to even cross to get to defensive lines, and even like burrow their way in and die inside of like exhaust ports and bogging down stuff with their bodies. Because like that's one of the things with the hive mind's intelligence, it knows when to use its resources. Tyranids, all they want is biomass so they can pull it back into the hive and make more bugs and adapt and all that stuff. But it can waste a lot of the biomass for a victory a little farther in the future because it's just going to get it all back. Once all of, the good biomass is gone, everything on that planet's converted back, taken into their hive fleet, and they skedaddle to the next planet. However, the hive mind is not omniscient, and it's not like a perfect thing. It can be tricked, and it has been before. There have been, or you can kind of just outshoot and outpower the hive mind, as it's, it can do all the tactics it wants, but if it's fully outnumbered, it's not much it can do. And there's been a few cases of outsmarting it. There's some Eldar that have gotten stuff past the whole shadow and the warp thing. The Ultramarine Psyker, Tigurius actually tapped into the hive mind at some point. Only like person alive who has ever tapped into the Tyranid hive mind psychically, for a few seconds granted, but has been able to predict what the Tyranids are going to do. Might have tapped in for long enough to really understand their tactics, or maybe even has like almost this kind of link to them now, where he can anticipate their movements really accurately. And one of my favorite parts about the Tyranid hive mind is that it very clearly has a personality, and one that it is spiteful as fuck. This big bug brain is petty. I love that. As for the devastation of Baal, and which is the giant tyrannic invasion of the Blood Angel homeworld that was horribly, horribly catastrophic for the Blood Angels, the hive mind really wants to kill the Blood Angels and has done maneuvers where it's very obvious it doesn't care about the food right now. It just wants to kill the Blood Angels because they did some really good fights against them in the past, and Dante, the badass that he is, fucked up some pretty big monsters for the Tyranids, like killing the Swarm Lord and shit. So it has that personality of just like, fuck you in particular. How dare you like stand to me and get in my way? And like I saw some discussion online that part's really lame and people don't like that. I fully disagree. I think it's the fun part of the Tyranid hive mind is that little bit of personality it can bring. Granted, I know I mentioned all before, I don't want like the Tyranid queen to come out with a full like sentient character. I don't want that. But I like that there's a little bit of something there that can help like maneuver what it can do in the moment, so it's a bit more different than the Tyranids made the most optimal play here, or they charged in just to, eat whatever is in front of them. Like having like the personality can lead to some really fun story moments. So I don't know. I fully disagree with the critiques on that. I think this is like a really fun part of the hive mind's like personality and just the whole shtick. So yeah, that wraps it up. I think Tyranid hive mind's really cool. I hope it kind of stays the course it is. I would really hate it if, a few years down the line, I hope this doesn't age poorly, where we don't get some Tyranid characters that look just anthropomorphic bug humans that all have tragic backstories and want to eat people for noble reasons this time. I hope they stay the fun Starship Trooper Xenomorph ripoffs that we know and love. But yeah, anyways, like, subscribe, ring the bell, comment, do all that fun stuff. See ya.